She say, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. 50 dub, I even got it tatted on me.
What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon. This is Lifestyles Defined Photo. And today we are taking a look at one of my vintage Minolta lenses. I promised you guys a review on all of them. I've got about 4 of them or so. And I love each one. And they're such dope lenses. They give so much of a different characteristic. And I feel like they're worthy of attention. And at the price that you pay, my God, there's no reason not to own these things, especially if you own mirrorless cameras. So this one is my nifty 50. I have 2 of them, actually. This one is just a 50. The other is a macro. So this is a Maxxum autofocus 50 millimeter 1.4. Yes, so that 1.4, you know, I actually started buying these lenses as, I would say, testers or feelers for focal lengths. I wasn't always sold on primes. I was a big fan of zooms, but as you grow as a photographer, you need to understand these things and you need to own these different focal lengths and primes and just add it to your toolkit. So part of me experimenting without spending big bucks or going out there and buying the Sony equivalent, the 1.8 or whatever it is for $500-600, I got this guy. I think at the time I paid $120, and for me, all the stars aligned because on my A7 Mark II, I have a LEA4 adapter, which is an A mount to E mount adapter. And lucky for me, these Minolta lenses go right on my adapter and I was good to go. So it took me some time. I didn't want a manual focus lens. So it took me some time to find the autofocus version of this lens. And I just started my journey out there. My God, I have come to really... First of all, I've come to love the 50 millimeter focal length on a full frame camera. When I use this on something like my Fuji, I'm not super happy with the field of view that I get. I feel that it is a little, because of the crop factor, is a little longer than 50, but it's not as long as like an 85. So it's kind of an annoyance there, but still doable. But I fell in love with this 50 millimeter focal length. And I didn't know I would. I hear people talk about it all the time, but yes, 50s are super dope. They're super sharp. It's so much less decision making when you're out in the field because this is all you have. So you got to figure out your composition on the go. You know, there's no zooming in, zooming out, looking like a clown, but that's also there. But yeah, this guy, a little bit about the lens. So it's got 7 elements in 6 groups. It's got 7 blades. And that 7 blade thing, why you guys know my reviews are not super technical, but that 7 blade thing I took note of because unlike a lot of the newer lenses today that you'll see come with 9 and sometimes more, I think, where the bokeh balls are like these super perfect circles, this lens does not provide that. And on paper, if someone were to tell you that, stop the video here, I'm going back to sleep, or stop talking about this lens, I don't need to know. Like, no. Even with the fact that these bokeh balls are not perfect circles, they're super unique. When you see them, there's something about them that you say, wow, what lens is that? And that's a characteristic of this lens that carries out throughout. The look and feel of the images I get from using this 50 is just... it's undescribable. It's just another level. 2 more technical facts about it I think are noteworthy is there's a hard focus stop for infinity. So that's pretty important for people who are into astrology. And then there's also a sort of a depth of field scale. So I'm still getting used to this guy because it does require some math. But once you kind of understand it, it makes your life a lot easier for the autofocus and stuff, which I hardly use anyway. But that's there for those of you who care about that stuff. But yeah, the overall, the specs aside, the overall design of this lens, I'd say is pretty small. It's a very small package. You know, I feel like in today's world, a lot of these primes, the 50s, the 20s, the 35s, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's super refreshing to have a lens like this that's pretty much this small and still performs so well. Guys, this lens is sharp. For something this old, this lens probably from the 80s. I gotta look it up according to the serial number, but I own this about 2 years now. I think when I looked it up, this lens was about from 82. So this lens is damn near as old as I am. It's a little older than I am, and that's, first of all, that's some hipster shit. That's super dope to own something that's functional and relevant, and it's older than I am. So I'm looking forward to passing this on to my kids when I get some. That's the type of gratification and satisfaction I get from this lens. And to be honest, all of my Minolta legacy glass. So that's super cool. But I find that speaking of how it performs in the field, I find that it was sharpest at 5.6, anywhere from 5.6 to f8, and you know that's that old photography math there, where you know your lens is sharpest at 5.6 to f8. But when I say sharpest, I mean overall sharpness. So even when it's wide open at 1.4, which is crazy, you can still see the center of the image is crazy sharp. It's just the softness comes in towards the edges, which I'm totally fine with, because anything that's not in the center, or in focus I should say, is depth of field to hell. You can't see it anyway, so I don't care if it's soft. But I really do enjoy this guy. There was a lesson that I learned from shooting with this lens. It's so tempting because you own a 1.4, a lens with such a wide aperture, 1.4 or 1.2. In the case of the Canon, where I was shooting at 51.2, it doesn't mean you have to shoot at 1.2. And it's actually work when you're out and about to not want to shoot everything wide open. You know, because you can doesn't mean you should, but it is downright addicting. I gotta tell you, it is super addicting. I used to love using this thing on my Sony. In the recent months, I've been using it on my Fuji. So I found an adapter that was very interesting, because this is an autofocus lens, which means it doesn't have a focus. It doesn't really have a manual aperture ring on the lens itself. So when you put it on an adapter, you can't change the aperture, and that is the worst. But for some reason, I don't know how or why, I got lucky. I gotta look back into this. The adapter that I found for my Fuji had a little screw. I was like, why is there a screw in the middle of this adapter? But when you go to put it together, the screw actually fits perfectly in the crevices of the lens, and it controls the aperture mechanism on the lens. So on my Fuji, sure, it's not autofocus, but I can control my aperture. And my God, what a combination. The Fuji, you guys haven't seen my Fuji review. Link is in the description. I love my XT2, but when coupled with this, even though I said earlier that I wasn't a fan of the slightly 1.5 difference, the crop factor, it was still so much fun. And the characteristics that images got from this lens, plus the colors of Fuji, my God, what a winning combination. Goddamn fireworks. So yeah, this 1.4, this 51.4, I think is an amazing lens to own, especially if you shoot mirrorless. I think you should gun for this lens. The price point is amazing. You should be able to find it for about $100. What I can say is you should definitely just spend a little bit more than the asking price to get a really good copy of this lens. Don't worry about the performance. You're gonna love it. But it's important to get a good copy, something that's not damaged, something that will it's come this far, and if you can get a good condition one, it'll last you even longer. So yeah, that's that. And then get you an adapter, depending on what you're shooting. If you're shooting Sony, like I said, this one is autofocus, so that's a win. But if you're gonna adapt it to anything else, make sure you get one of those adapters. I'm not sure. You guys can leave in the comment section below what that is. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for there, but there's a little screw in the adapter that manually controls the aperture. That's a huge one. Do not buy an adapter without that. I actually have one on my Micro Four Thirds system that cannot control the aperture, and it essentially makes the adapter useless. I can't use the lens. I don't even know what aperture the lens defaults to. So, there's that. Overall, I was very happy with this lens, and this is definitely going to be a fun series going forward, because I have a few more of them, and I think you guys are going to enjoy the images that you see that I was able to get out of these legacy lenses. I think it's just dope. And again, I keep referencing this video that I did a while back where I was very adamant about pointing out the fact that your camera and your lenses are not like any other piece of technology where they age and they become I guess just useless and out of date. These are great examples why. This lens is literally older than me, and it's still amazing, and I can still create magic with it. Now that's dope. If you like this video, here are 2 video recommendations, something you surely gonna love just like it. And right in the middle, you're gonna see that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it if you would just tap that and welcome yourself into the community. Like the video if you like it. Hit some comments. Get some questions and answers down there. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace.